let the producers do the journalism and be in the trenches, and let the correspondents who don't have the time to be the journalists not be as much correspondents anymore, but be presenters.
Frank, you've had a lengthy background in journalism. During your 17 years with ABC News, you were a producer and director for Nightline, Good Morning America, ABC News, World News Tonight, and The Last Word with Phil Donahue and Craig Jackson. Also a senior producer, product development, ABC News Interactive, and you've been active as a music producer and composer, consultant, and executive in digital media. You've covered the basis. What would be your opening statement on the condition of TV news today?
Well, first I have to say that after hearing you say that, it's a wonder I'm still around. But on the condition of TV news today, I'm appalled at least from the perspective of the way that journalism had been done on television news back when I was a journalist. And, we kind of believed in, or we didn't kind of believe, we believed in the tenets of journalism. We believed in the truth, and we believed in questioning power, and nothing stood in our way. And I see today, and I say that from over here in the UK, watching US TV, which I do every day, and I see every day a lot of those tenets not being followed, and that to me is sad, to coin a Donald Trump phrase, and it feels like instead of television journalists questioning the power, they want to suck up to the power. So there's a until I think they were called on the carpet for the way that they did what they did by the rest of the media. And I think maybe now they're starting to fight back. So I'm hoping that they've gone from really being strong journalists to being weak journalists to becoming strong journalists again. And so what I see is a dynamic trend back to where they need to be, speaking truth to power, telling the truth, and presenting to the audience who has a right to know those things that they need to know about.
Well, specifically, what would be your ideas for the future? Would they be, for example, do what we used to do in the old days, or do something different, considering the fact that TV news today is competing in the most dangerous place on earth, which is the internet?
Yeah, I think so. So to me, the biggest issue when it comes to, for example, investigative journalism, is the fact that the media, the medium itself, it's a voracious animal. It's constantly eating content. It needs to be fed all the time. The 24-hour news cycle does not stop. The correspondents and reporters who are in the field have less time to actually ply their trade because they have more times that they need to be on the air and reporting. And I would maybe create a new sort of paradigm, the way that these things get done. And now this is a little bit of Back to the Future. Let the producers do the journalism and be in the trenches, and let the correspondents who don't have the time to be the journalists not be as much correspondents anymore, but be presenters. And those journalists who are capable of real solid journalism can stop and take the time to do the work with the producers, and then let the presenters present this content. I think that's going to not appeal to a real solid journalist, but it might appeal to an audience that still needs to get its fair share of truth.
Well, that's quite a statement, and obviously you would get some kickback from certain correspondents. Do you believe that there are enough producers out there who are real journalists?
No, I don't think that that the industry is teaching the producers how to do that today the way that they taught them how to do that when I was a producer. It was important that we knew how to ask questions, that we knew how to be curious, that we knew how to write, that we knew how to be editors, that we knew how to check facts, not just go out and collect material, bring it in, and edit it together and then throw it out there. It almost feels like a lot of it is cook the spaghetti, throw it against the refrigerator, see how much of it sticks, kind of thing. I think that that's part of where it needs to go, and that is maybe it's almost like the German method of teaching, and that is that you have apprenticeships and that people have to go out and they have to learn a certain way and they have to work with people who have the experience. And I'm not sure that the industry will do that. I would like to see that happen because I think that in the end, and it may take a year or 2 or 5 to get us to the point where it's actually working. But I would like to see that. But I agree with you. There are a lot of solid journalists out there who are also on-camera personalities who would fight back at that. But I don't think that that's something that they would need to fight back at. I would hope that they would see this as positive forward momentum because, as you said, the internet is the beast. It's not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, what we know as television today, whether it's broadcast television or cable television, is going to go away. It's going to end up being all on the internet. It's all going to be OTT. The broadcast spectrum, although 30% of America, for example, is still getting its signal on a broadcast spectrum, has been usurped by the cable spectrum. And the cable spectrum is being overshadowed by the online spectrum. And online is simply a better way to gather and to disseminate content.
Well, I don't have a TV executive here with me, but I think he or she would say to you, look, we're doing a pretty damn good job considering that we are in a hugely competitive environment. We do use the internet. We have, on our evening newscasts, still have a limited amount of time and even less attention spans to cope with than you, Frank, had when you were doing it. And perhaps you're just being a grumpy young man.
Or a grumpy old man. I think that you're right, but part of what you said is an indication of where it's going. Yes, they are using the internet. They're using it to augment what they would normally do. So the nightly newscast is a half-hour newscast. It can't possibly compete with the 24-hour news cycle on an MSNBC or a CNN or a Fox News. So they have created MSNBC and CNN and Fox News. That's why those things came to be. And as you said, all of them, all of the networks, all of the cable channels, even the cable channels, have a very strong internet and digital journalism outlet. So you have ABC.com and NBC.com and CBS.com and CNN.com and so on and so on and so on, giving all sorts of opportunities for the journalists and journalism to be disseminated in various ways. There's even Snapchat and Instagram versions of some of these major news outlets that basically are bite-sized chunks of journalism. So you get your long journalism on maybe on television, and you get your shorter journalism maybe on the nightly newscasts, and then you can get some more thoughtful and conversational journalism or conversation on the cable channels, and then each of the digital channels offers you an opportunity to cut those things down into various chunks of content and information that can then be distributed on the various platforms. Like I said, Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and Twitter and look, there's no argument that Twitter has become a very, very important distribution platform for content of news. take a look at what it was when it started and what it became, say, during the Arab Spring. It became a very important thing. It became a very important thing during the riots in Iran. It all of a sudden became something that people went to look at, to get information from, that gave them the impetus to want to go somewhere else and get more information. I also think, it's something that your president, or the president of the United States, has learned how to use to his great advantage, and it's as evidenced by the fact that it played a significant role in getting him to have direct access to the people of America.
What began as TV news, or what is TV news in 2017, is it going to survive, or is it just going to be the internet and that's it? Are we wasting our time?
No, I don't think we're wasting our time, and I do think it will survive, but it won't survive as TV news. It will survive as digital audio and video distribution content of information. It won't be TV news, and that gets into the whole argument of why do we still call it TV anymore? I've gone around the world asking that question at various places where I've spoken. And we've come out of it almost invariably with the fact that nobody else can come up with a better name for it. So that's just a name. There will still be the name TV news, but it just won't be on TV. And it'll still be all of what we have now, and maybe at its best all of what we had then, and then we will have all of what we're going to have later, which is watching TV while you're driving in your car when it's a self-driving car, for example. You certainly aren't going to be driving down the road right now with a TV set in the middle of your dashboard, because that's dangerous. But when it's self-driving cars, something happens, you can pay attention to a distribution outlet that is now showing you content in audio and video in your car, in your bathroom mirror, wherever you happen to be. Mobile is a great example of the beginning of where we're going, because using your phone to consume content, everyone's doing it. And maybe in some places, not maybe, but certainly in some places, Korea, Japan, China, they've overcome content being distributed on televisions, and the phone has usurped that space.
Some of our colleagues have suggested that we are entering a post-fact world of whether you call it TV news or information dissemination. Others are saying that, no, what we need, what the key to survival is going to be, is accurate, objective, old-fashioned, if you will, journalism. And still others will say what you really need is you need to forget the objectivity, get in there and declare yourself one way or the other, because that's the way that people are going to want. That's how you're going to get an audience, and one way or the other, that's how you're going to survive. Where do you come down on that?
Well, I think that both have to happen. I think that if you look back at radio, radio is a perfect example of how a guy like Edward R. Murrow, covering the World War II from London, reporting live from the rooftops as the bombs were coming down. Absolutely necessary kind of reporting. The world found out about what was going on that way, preceded television. And as time went on, radio found that it was a great opportunity to have people sit and have a discussion about what it is they thought was going on, certainly prior to recently when there was actually a fairness doctrine. You got two differing points of view, and people could talk about a topic, and you would hear both sides of that coin. Eventually, it seems that people got to the point where they wanted to have a position. Therefore, America's Talking becomes Fox News. Fox News does very well, and then you end up with a far right administration now, and people are now starting to move back towards listening to MSNBC, which is giving you a left of center type of a position. You're absolutely right. People want a position because they want to hear what other people are saying that is the same thinking as they have. But there's still room for, and I believe it's important that the old style of journalism, which looks at the story right down the middle, gives you both sides of it, and fairly and adequately investigates something, and then presents it in that way. I think there's room for that too. I actually think there's room for both. Talk radio lived very, very well alongside CBS News Radio for a long time, and I don't see why that model can't exist in the new age of digital video and audio.
Frank, thank you very much for your contribution to TV News insights and ideas for the future. Thank you.
My pleasure.
The issues are profound and urgent, solutions critical to a free society. If you believe that you can contribute insights and ideas for the future of video news, we'd like to hear from you. You might have the next big vision. Book your Skype interview by emailing me, MikeLeeNews@mac.com. MikeLeeNews@mac.com. TV News Insights and Ideas is a not-for-profit project by Mike Lee. It is not limited to any one news organization. Newsmakers are also invited to submit insights and ideas. Bring your game.